really hurts. I literally can't see it. I can't. This is your fun bowl. No matter what you pick, you're gonna have a lovely time.
Okay.
I hope you get the Butterfinger, it's my favorite. Over here, we're not skimping. It's been a hard year for everyone. We need this as much as you do. Please grab 40 because we will have leftovers for the rest of the year.
Let's get comfy together. Make yourself a cup of tea, some coffee, a hot cocoa. Let's get a blanket or a quilt out. Let's sit down and have a little kiki together. I just got back from beautiful California. I was out there visiting Linnea, which, if you are new here, she was my best friend in high school. We started this tradition when we were in college. She was going to Drake in Des Moines, and I would go and visit her for Halloween every year. And then ever since she moved out to California 7 years ago, I just make it a fall trip out to Cali. I had an amazing time, as you saw, and it was just a really different vibe this time because usually when I come out there, I don't want to say like I am an event because I don't mean it like that, but usually we do kind of bigger, grander activities. I was there for a full week. And I feel like on the weekdays, we really kept it very simple this time. I don't know if that's being 29 years old and you don't need to go do all these big major events, but there was something about it that was just so simple. Usually it feels like more of a vacation for me, and this time it just felt like living life together, like taking walks in the morning and getting coffee and doing co-working time and making a dinner together and going on the track at night. Even down to Halloween, the way we celebrate is so different than it was, 7 or 8 years ago. We used to be the college girls who would dress up and go to parties, and it was the big event of the weekend. And now I just feel like we're like suburban moms, but I just felt content. And I really enjoyed that we just did our daily lives together and it didn't have to be these big events. I feel content in our friendship just being simple. But then when the weekend came, we did kind of the bigger things. We went to Sonoma, had a couple of wine tastings. On Sunday, we went out to Maury Point and we hiked up Maury Point, and then we went to Soul Grind for coffee and just sat at the beach watching surfers. And this trip was really special because it was kind of our goodbye tour. Linnea and Nick will be moving from California this year. So being able to spend a final week with them where they've been for over half a decade was just very special. And I'm excited for future trips and where they're headed next. It was a really sweet time as friends. And I also had the realization while I was there that summer of 2025, Linnea and I will be friends for 15 years, and I'll be 30 in June of 2025. So I will have officially known her half my life this upcoming summer. Having just come back from my California trip, and because it is the week after an election here in the United States, I feel like there is no better time to talk about friendships. Friendships are so important, and I feel like they do not get the highlight reel that they deserve. We really highlight becoming parents, and we really highlight becoming a spouse. And I think that being a good friend is a goal that we should all have. I did write down notes for today because I do feel like I'm pretty well versed in this area. I have friends that I have known for 20 plus years. I have friends that I met 6 months ago. And some of the ones that I met 20 years ago, we have a very different friendship back then than we do now. Lots of life stage changes, lots of transitions into new people, really. And then the people that I'm just meeting, that's also interesting because there's not that history there. So it's just really interesting how sometimes you can know someone for 20 years and feel like you don't know them like you used to. And then you can know someone for 6 months and feel like you know them very well when you just don't have that history involved. When I was thinking about the big umbrella concept of friendships, I think it can be broken down into two subsets: making friends and retaining friends. Oftentimes, people are good at one or the other. I find that usually extroverts tend to, in general, be better at the making friends. They're good at like those new first impressions, getting out there, meeting people, being personable, being intentional in that way. And I find that a lot of times, in general, introverts are really good at the retaining friends because they want to retain those friendships. They don't want to have to make new ones. And so they put a lot of effort into the friendships that they have. Now, that's not always the case. You can be an extrovert who's better at retaining friends. You can be an introvert who's better at making friends. That's just kind of the general idea that I see. Maybe my first challenge of this video is reflect on which one do you feel stronger in, or do you feel like you hold both in balance very well? For me personally, because I've made a lot of changes in the last few years, I'm actually pretty blessed to be in that balanced category because I have these friends I've known forever. And then I made a number of big life changes in the last year and a half, 2 years. So I have all these new friends and I had to relearn how to make friends. So all this information I'm going to give you, probably none of it is going to be groundbreaking. I'll be honest with you, but it's going to be a good refresher course. And maybe it will spark an idea for you on how to have better friendships. Something that is of the utmost importance when making friends, and this is going to sound like a no duh moment, is commonalities. You do not have to have everything in common. In fact, I cannot name one friend who I agree with on every subject that we discuss. But in order to make a friend, you have to have a commonality. So this is your second challenge. I want you to sit down and I want you to write out, what are my top 3 passion points in life? This could be that you're very career driven, like whatever your industry is for your work. This could be that you want to do healthy living. You have a very healthy and active lifestyle, and that's a priority in your life. This could be that you love fashion. It's a hobby. You love to style. You love trend analysis. That's your passion point. Whatever your 3 things are, those are the things that are now your focus for commonalities. And once you have those 3 points, those 3 passion points that you really prioritize and elevate, whether it's hobbies, interests, lifestyles, I want you to take that and I want you to think of places that you can go to where you would find other people who would have that in common. Just spark your thoughts. I'll give you a few examples. Let's say one of your passion points is politics. Where are you going to go to find people who have the same passion point as you? Maybe you run for student council because you're really passionate about how things work in politics. You want to be a part of that. And since you're too young to cast a vote, or since you're too young to be elected into any role, you can go and run for something like student council and you can be involved. These people are also running for student council because they have a passion for working within the systems that they have available to them. Maybe it's something like religious background. Maybe you really want to find a faith community. So the place that you're going to find those people is going to be church. It's going to be a Bible study. It's going to be a temple, maybe even something that is like a spiritual retreat. Maybe a fun passion point of yours is that you happen to have a favorite football team, or you have a favorite TV show or a favorite game. So you have to find ways to connect with people who also have that passion point. You go to a tailgate for a football game, or you go to, sometimes local bars will have, if you wear your jersey, you'll get $2 off your beer, and you go to the bar and you can meet other people who are also there with their jerseys on cheering for the game. You now have someone who's interested in the same sport as you. Maybe you love a specific TV show. I know of a lot of modern bars who will do like hey, we're showing the season finale of The Bachelorette, and then people can come and they can dress up, and that's what they have in common. It doesn't have to always be this deep thing. I think politics and religion, I wanted to start with those because those are more of this like deep rooted belief system, versus sometimes it's like, I just don't like this person on a reality television show, and then you go to an event for reality TV and this other person doesn't like them and you're like, oh my gosh, I know, she drives me crazy, right? Like, it doesn't have to be this deep thing. You just need to find a commonality with people. That's something I've learned for many years of networking. If you can get at least one thing that you have in common with the person in front of you, you are guaranteed to make a deeper connection than if you are not able to find one commonality with them. Maybe you are someone who really prioritizes healthy living. So you're looking for people who would be at the same workout classes as you. You're looking for people who would go to the same trails that you walk every day. You just need to think of the 3 passion points, and then you need to think of places where you could go where people who also have those shared passion points would be. Since you have those passion points and you've thought of places where you can go in order to meet people who might have those same thoughts, beliefs, or passions, now you have to plan and you have to follow through. If you are someone who wants to prioritize healthy living, maybe you're currently not even doing that, but that's just like, this is what I want to have in common with the people around me. And you want to go to workout classes, nothing will happen if you just think about going to a workout class. Things will only happen if you actually go there. So you need to plan to go to one, find one that works for you, and then you need to follow through. You cannot get cold feet when you're sitting outside in your car in front of the studio. You got to go in and you got to do the workout class, and you've got to be willing to meet people. Let's say one of your passion points is that you really love video games. So you've met these people online in this online forum and you're talking, in your headsets and you're connecting pretty regularly. I would encourage you to take that a step further and be like, hey, I would love to FaceTime while we're playing this game. If you live in the same city, be like, do you want to go to the opening of this video game store? Or do you just want to go grab a bite to eat and talk about this new game that's coming out? You've already found the commonality. Now you just need to put a face and a human person in front of you in some way in order to make that connection regarding that commonality. Another direction you can take this is sizing down. So what I was just talking about was taking the step of seeing someone in person instead of just having them kind of be a concept to you. This can also go for like social media and DMing and then meeting in person. Let's get out of our DMs. Let's go meet people in person. Let's go have a meetup. Similarly, let's say that you have a passion for content creation and you see that there is a meetup for content creators in your city, and you go and you plan it, you follow through, you do what you're supposed to do. What could be the next step after that? When you're at this event that is, let's say, 50 people, if there are 1 or 2 people that you click with at the event, your next step, your plan and follow through secondary step is, hey, I've really enjoyed getting to know you. Would you ever want to get together and create content? Or let's say you're at a birthday party and there's 50 people and there's like someone that you just click with. You never met them before. You meet them at this get together and you're like, wow, I really want to have like a friendship with them. I find them really intriguing, and just like a purely platonic way. What is your plan and next step? Your plan is, hey, I've had a great time getting to know you. Would you ever want to hang out outside of this friend group? And then usually someone will say yes, because people genuinely do want to have deeper friendships and deeper connections. And then you make the plan in your calendar and then you actually follow through with it. I think that's just the real key. Is I see so many people who are like, they have good intentions, but then they're like, anxiety and their self-doubt gets the best of them. And the reality is, it's going to be really hard to make and keep friends if you constantly let anxiety and self-doubt rule you. You need to rule it, and you need to overcome it as best you can. The reason I think that these points are so important about the plan and follow through is that someone who's maybe more inclined to be introverted is going to love the idea that they don't really have to be on for people when they're playing a video game. You can just be talking and playing. You can be slouching in a chair. You don't have to dress up. You don't have to be like visually engaging with them. And so I think that brings you out of your comfort zone as an introvert to be in person, but it's a really growing experience. In the same way, I think extroverts are so comfortable in a big group setting, 50, 60, 100 people. They have a harder time really digging deep into those intimate conversations. The challenge for both sides is kind of whatever the discomfort is, getting out of that. And I really want to highlight that because both the making friends portion of this conversation and the retaining friends portion of this conversation do require you going out of your comfort zone and experiencing discomfort. You cannot acquire or keep friendships in any manner if you are not willing to be uncomfortable at one point or another, whether that is a conversation that needs to be had, whether that is putting yourself out there at the risk of being denied or rejected, whether that is taking the next step of the friendship and trusting them more. There's always going to be a point where there is like a comfort zone fear factor moment, and you got to step over that. You got to get past that anxiety. Another way to make friends that I found to be really enjoyable and is a route that you can feel a little more controlled within is being a host of an event. So for me, how this is played out is having the open house coffee shops at my house. And then what I do is I will host it here. This is my space that I'm in control of. I'm in control of the music. I'm controlling what we're serving. I'm not necessarily controlling who's coming because you can bring whoever you want, but I am saying, hey, you are invited. I want you to bring someone because I want to be able to make more friends. I want the people who are here to interconnect and find commonalities. I have had, I think, 2 or 3 friends connect with each other through the coffee shop and really hit it off. And it's been cool to see. It's been cool to broaden my friend groups and also kind of like a spider web, like interconnect my friends. Because there are all these people who I know would get along. But unfortunately, just in an American culture, we don't really bring our people together unless there is like a birthday or a wedding or something like that, a baby shower. We are not very good about combining our different worlds, especially as an Irish American. I'm not doing like a quinceañera where people are coming together, right? Like I'm not doing these special, really specific celebrations where groups of people interact. And so I just know hosting is a great way to get the people that you love to get to know each other. This could also play out like a trip. So let's say that you really want to go to Thailand. I have a friend going to Thailand soon, so that's on the top of my mind. And you could travel solo. You've done it before, but let's say that you want to have friends there. You are now the host of this trip. I'm going to Thailand from this date to this date. Do you want to come with me? Sure. Okay, is there anyone else that you know who would want to come with? Now you have this group of people, like you're not a tour guide, you're not creating an itinerary for them, but you're all staying at the same resort. You can have activities together, you can go do excursions together, or you can choose to do your own solo thing, but you're experiencing the same place at the same time. And you're creating those memories, you're making those memories, and you never know like who will show up to things like that. Earlier this year in March, I went to a trip for Olympic National Park in Washington, and there were 10 of us that went, and some of these girls like I barely knew. Last year I went to a trip in Texas where there were like 9 or 10 of us, and I didn't know, I think I knew 2 people before going on this like 10-person trip. You can also do something like a dinner party. I've heard of people doing these like favorite things dinner parties where it's like, hey, I'm inviting you specifically and you can bring a +1, bring another favorite person, and now you have more people who are getting to know each other and making friends. It's within a controlled environment. You are the host, you are in charge, and it makes you feel maybe a little less anxious to be in your home. Finally, in terms of making friends, this one I didn't really know how to like title it. I'm going to call it like phone a friend. I wouldn't say that this is a good motivation for making friends, but I think it is an outcome of how friends are made. Let me break this down a little bit more. I have had relationships in my life, romantic relationships, that lasted for a season, and they were good for the season. But because I dated that guy, I then met his friends, and there were friends from his friend group who have outlived, like our friendship has outlived that relationship. In the same way, I've had friends when I was younger who, through life stage changes, moving away, losing touch, maybe we're not in contact anymore, but through them, I met somebody else who I'm still in contact with. So I guess that's why I call it phone a friend. because it's like if you can't necessarily connect with that original friendship relationship anymore, you have now phoned a friend and you are still friends, and you can utilize your community that comes with the people that you love in this specific period of time. Because whether that relationship survives or not, you still want to meet new people and you still want to make community. All right, now onto the second half of this, retaining friendships. Life is full of unexpected changes, necessary moves, and life stage transitions. So, how are we going to retain these friendships through all of that? A major point here is trying to establish expectations early and clearly, just like you would if you were in a romantic relationship. You cannot just go around assuming things are going to happen. You cannot just assume that someone can read your mind or assume that they understand where you're coming from. You need to set expectations. Here's some examples of why this is really important. I'm thinking about when I was in college and I had friends who moved away. When you go from seeing someone every single day at school, living daily life together, to them being gone, it's a really big adjustment. And in my early years of college, I learned that sometimes my expectations were not realistic and they needed to be reset. How often are you talking with this person who now lives out of state? When that person comes home from school or comes home for the holidays, are they going to prioritize being able to see you? Or is this a trip where they have to, get in and get out? I had a friend recently who had a grandparent who passed away. When this person comes back to Minnesota, they usually prioritize a coffee hangout with me where we sit for a couple hours, we catch up. It's always a great time. This specific time, this person was coming back for 3 days. They had a funeral, they had a visitation, they had family obligations, and that's understood. But if I was just assuming and I didn't understand that the expectation was family is priority this trip, I might be thinking like, oh, is something wrong? Or does this person not like me anymore? Or almost that this person was like mean in how they went about it when really they're just prioritizing something different for this specific trip. Another example of this is a friend that's having a baby, and this could be their first baby, this could be their 5th baby. Usually weddings and babies and big life moves are like the 3 things that really change your friendship. Similar to a soon-to-be grandparent, you as a friend do not get to call the shots on anything with this baby. And you also do not have a say over how your friend comes into parenthood or how they handle adding a new addition to their family. So this can be an expectation that, hey, we're just not telling people the gender of our kid. We're not going to have any visitors at the hospital. It's just going to be the 2 of us in the room. We're going to have this kid. We cannot wait to introduce you at a better time. Sometimes even people are like, hey, just going to give you a heads up. I don't really know what to expect after I give birth. I'll keep you updated through text, but maybe the first week, I just won't really want visitors. I might just want to recover. I might just want to be in my house with my baby. And setting that expectation before it happens is really, really important, not only for the person having the baby, because I think there's this unspoken pressure of like making sure everybody's happy. Same thing with a wedding. If you don't set expectations before a wedding, it makes it really hard for the guests to know what to expect for the event. On the flip side of it though, if you are the person who is not getting married, not having a baby, not making the move, I think it's almost better if you bring those types of conversations up, because then you're not adding stress to this person's life. You're saying, hey, I see that you're about to go through a big life change and a big life transition. I want to make this as seamless as possible for both of us, and I really value our friendship. What should the expectations be once you move? Like, are we talking once a month? Are we talking once a quarter? How often can I come visit you? Or are you coming home pretty often? Like, how are we going to keep up this friendship? But also, like, how do we do it in a way where we're both adults, we have schedules, and there's not pressure. It's just more of a understanding before you leave. Another point of retaining friendships is that you have to care about others more than you care about yourself. It really is a matter of like inconvenience sometimes. So for example, I have friends who have children, and so it would be much harder for them to load up their kids in a car and plan everything to get them over to where I am. It is much easier for me as a single person solo to jump in a car and drive myself over to their house. But that requires me to inconvenience myself in order to make the situation as seamless as possible. In the same way, you have to care about other people's needs. You have to care about other people's wants. And sometimes you even have to be in a position where maybe somebody is in a big life transition and they're just not able to be the friend that they've always been. You have to have a selflessness in that moment and an understanding of like grace for them, that this is a period of time. This is not necessarily forever. And in this season, they're not at their best. Spurring off of caring for others more than you care about yourself, we need the point of intentionality. Your relationships will not grow deeper and they will not be retained if you are not intentional, if you do not build trust, and if you do not have commitment. The intentionality point is that you prioritize who is most important to you. And the way that you show that is by action. Because a lot of us say that, oh, I love you. Oh, I care about you. Let me know if there's anything I can do. But the reality is the people who show up for you, the people who advocate for you, the people who remember things about you that are really specific, that is the intentionality that sustains a friendship. So this can be something as simple as remembering your friend's birthday and celebrating them. This could be, Linnea is like the queen of writing cards. I love a postcard. I know when she's going to go on a trip, I'm going to get a postcard. That makes me feel like when Linnea went on this trip, she remembered me while she traveled. Writing cards is huge. Words of affirmation. I don't think anybody gets enough words of affirmation these days. In fact, I think more people get criticism and critique than they get affirmation. And I think we could all use it. This could also be like, you just had a baby and I'm going to come over. You do not have to have the house clean. You do not have to be all made up. Literally, let me like wash your dishes, do some laundry for you. Let me clean the house. You sit with your baby. You enjoy being a parent. I am going to lighten this burden of all these other things that need to be done. This is so easy for me to do. Let me make you a meal so that you don't have to cook. This could also play out as in texting someone and just saying, hey, I just thought about you this morning. I hope that you're doing well. I do this all the time. I'll be like getting ready for work kind of mindlessly, and someone who I haven't talked to in 6 months to a year will pop into my head. And I'm just like, hey, thinking of you. It's been a while. Is there anything I can pray for? I hope you're doing well. It really is love languages. I have been comparing friendships and like romantic relationships a lot, but that's just because they kind of function similarly. People always say you should marry your best friend. I think there's a reason for that. With love languages, you're not going to receive or give love the same way everybody else does. But the joy of friendship is that you learn their love language and then you show them love in the way that they could receive love. The final way to retain a friendship is through commitment. Again, that may sound like a no duh moment, but a lot of people just aren't as committed to their friendships as they claim to be. I started doing this thing called the tier system last year. I talked about it on Instagram a lot, and you have 4 tiers. The first tier is people that you feel so close to. You would love to talk to weekly. You would love to hang out with every single week. The second tier is people you want to see once a month. Maybe that's with the bandwidth that you have for that friend. I would love to see you once a month. Let's put a date on the calendar. The third group is people that you see quarterly or at really specific events. So these are people who are work colleagues. Maybe they are friends of a friend. They're kind of on the outer circle. Maybe also you have a friend that was previously really like a tier 1 in a different season of life, but now because they like moved away or because you're just in a different life stage than them, they have to be in a tier 3 setting because it's just not realistic for you to see each other as often. So they would be put in like the tier 3 every quarter, biannual. And then the fourth tier is people who are like, maybe if they invite me and I feel like it and the day is open and I really want to go, I'll see them. If you use this system, you will find that you probably are prioritizing a lot of people who are in the 3 or 4 tier, and that's taking away from the time that could be spent with the people who are in the 1 or 2 tier. And I evaluate this probably quarterly because my friendships do change. Everything ebbs and flows. People change, availability, bandwidth, life stage, things change constantly. And so sometimes there will be people who are in like, I just am not able to see you more than twice a year, to all of a sudden I'm like seeing them multiple times a week. And sometimes I'll have people who I'm like, this is my ride or die. We are side by side forever. And then you go through something and you're like, okay, I've kind of lost some trust. And I think I need to put them at a tier 3 and just like create a boundary here for a second. Like something has happened and I need to reevaluate. Having a tier system is so good because it really shows you who you should be committing to in that season. And it also shows you who is committing to you. I think it's a beneficial thing for both sides of the coin because you can see a more well-rounded viewpoint of your friendships more clearly. Commitment is a huge thing. Commitment to planning something, commitment to following through, commitment to being intentional, commitment to putting others before myself. Every single one of the things I've just talked about fits into the commitment category because if you don't commit to those things, it's going to be really hard to make new friends. It's going to be really hard to retain good community in your life. Commitment and trust and intentionality are so key. That is all the suggestions that I have on my list regarding friendships. I feel like I could go on for like a whole nother hour and a half about like the deep nuanced points, but I do feel like there are things that I can be learning from you guys. And I would love, as much as like social media, it is hard to make it a back and forth conversation. I would love to know how you go about making and retaining friendships. If you want to put that in the comments, I think that having solid friendships is actually one of the more important relationships because your friendships also influence like what you look for in a partner and what you'll accept in a romantic relationship. And it also plays into how you interact with your family because the love and the trust that you build with your community directly plays into your immediate family's vibe, I guess. With that being said, I'm really excited to hear about ways that you guys are challenging yourself this week to make new connections, make deeper connections. I know you guys can do it. I know you can push through the anxiety. It is very tough, but I know that you're all capable of doing it. And I'm excited to come back next week and hopefully be able to hear some updates on how starting a new class or meeting new people went, or how it went having a hard discussion that ended up maybe strengthening a friendship. How did that go? How did it feel? Thank you so much for watching my channel and as always supporting me. I really do appreciate it. Views and likes are not everything, but as someone who's creating in the hopes that people do interact and relate to what I'm creating, it does help to know what type of topics people are really interested in based on the analytics and the insights that I get. And so I just want to thank you. You could be doing anything with your time and you choose to sit and watch my videos. And that means a lot. If you would be so inclined, subscribe to my channel, maybe suggest my videos to people you know, like your new friends, and maybe leave a like and a comment. I will see you guys in the next video. Have a great week.